When I found the box of emergency contraception in my husband's car, I didn't cry. Calmly, I swapped the pills out for folic acid. 2 months later, my best friend was sobbing hysterically in front of me, announcing her unplanned pregnancy. I looked at her, then at my awkward husband standing beside her. I knew the meticulously planned pregnancy drama I had directed was officially starting. The stifling atmosphere in the car, mixed with the cedar cologne he always wore, made my stomach churn. Today was our 3-year wedding anniversary. I had deliberately ended my afternoon meeting early and detoured to pick up the watch he had been mentioning for 2 months. This was supposed to be a carefully prepared surprise. But when I used the excuse of finding a document to open the passenger side glove compartment, that surprise instantly turned into a cold, heavy metal slug hitting my heart. A dazzling blue box. Emergency contraception. Beneath the box was a crumpled receipt from the suburban hot spring resort we had visited last month. My mind went blank for a few seconds. Then countless details I had deliberately overlooked rushed over me like a tidal wave. During that retreat, my best friend, Vivian Chase, just happened to be there for a work trip. She had smiled brightly, telling me, "Haha, I won't bother you in Ethan's little world. I'll book my own room. You guys enjoy your break." Looking back, how ridiculous that thoughtfulness was. And the fact that for almost 2 months, every time Ethan Miller came home, he looked perpetually exhausted. I thought he was busy with work, so I lovingly stewed all sorts of tonic soups for him. The way his eyes avoided mine when he drank the soup, I thought he was just tired and felt guilty that I was working so hard. Now, everything was explained. I didn't scream, I didn't collapse, I didn't even shed a single tear. Tears are the weapon of the weak, and from this moment on, I couldn't afford to be weak. I put the box and the receipt back, gently closing the compartment. The action was so calm it felt alien even to myself. Back home, I didn't confront him about his late night at the office, instead quietly preparing dinner as usual. After eating, I claimed I was going for a walk and drove to the nearest pharmacy. "Hi, can I please get a box of this brand of folic acid?" I also bought an identical box of emergency contraception to the one in his car. Returning to my empty home office, I locked the door. Under the desk lamp, I put on medical gloves. Using delicate tweezers, I carefully peeled back the aluminum foil of the birth control pills, meticulously removing each white tablet. Then, I opened the folic acid box, took out the pills of almost identical shape and color, and precisely placed them back into the original contraception packaging, one by one. Throughout the process, my hand never trembled. I was like a surgeon performing a delicate procedure, calm, focused, with only cold hatred left in my heart. When I was done, I flushed the real birth control pills down the toilet, watching them disappear with the swirling water. The next morning, while Ethan was in the bathroom, I quietly placed the doctored pill box back into the glove compartment of his car. For the next 2 months, I played the role of the perfect actress. I was gentler and more affectionate than before. I had his slippers ready when he returned home and massaged his shoulders when he was tired. I even proactively brought up having a baby. "Ethan, we've been married for 3 years, and our parents keep hinting. How about we start trying for a baby?" Each time I mentioned it, his eyes would dart away. He vaguely declined, using the excuse that the company was in a critical phase and the pressure was too intense. And my dear best friend Viv played her part even better than him. She would often casually tell me, "Haha, you're so lucky." Ethan is talented and family-oriented, but ambitious men carry a heavy burden. Don't pressure him too much about having kids, okay? Looking back at her innocent face, every detail was now filled with disgusting self-congratulation and subtle probing. I played along, but in my heart, I was silently counting down. Finally, on the first day of the 3rd month, Viv asked to meet me at our usual coffee shop. Her face was pale, her eyes red. As soon as she saw me, she broke down, pulling a trembling pregnancy test stick out of her bag. 2 unmistakable red lines. "Ava, I'm so sorry, I'm a terrible person," she wept torrentially, snot and tears streaming down her face. That night at the hot spring resort, the company party, I drank too much and Ethan brought me back to my room. I don't know what happened. The same tired old script, drunk and out of control. I said nothing, just silently watched her perform. Then I called Ethan right in front of her. "Honey, could you come to the usual coffee shop? Viv is here, and something happened to her." 20 minutes later, Ethan pushed open the door. When he saw the positive pregnancy test on the table and Viv hysterically crying, his entire body froze, his face utterly drained of color. His lips trembled as he looked at me, his eyes full of panic, fear, and pleading. "Ava, let me explain. It's not what you think." I ignored him, stood up, and walked over to Viv, taking her ice-cold hand. My voice was as gentle as a feather. "Don't be afraid, Viv. We're best friends, right? No matter what happens, I will help you." Both Viv and Ethan were stunned. They had expected me to freak out, to scream, to lose control. But none of that happened. Their eyes held the same look of shock, followed by a slight, relieved sense of survival after a catastrophe. I turned to Ethan, even giving him a soft smile. "Honey, the most important thing right now is to stabilize Viv and take good care of her health, right?" Like a puppet on strings, he instinctively and clumsily nodded. I looked at the two people who had once been closest to me, my heart sealed in a lake of ice. The actors were in place, the light and the stage were set. The drama of vengeance, engineered by my own hands, officially began. Late at night, the bedroom was silent. Ethan lay beside me, his body rigid, deliberately regulating his breathing to pretend he was asleep. I kept my eyes wide open, wide awake, letting the shattered memories sweep through the darkness. I remembered in college, when Ethan was still a poor student in faded jeans buried in books at the library. I was the one who pursued him. I loved his strong, uncompromising spirit. At one point, I even tried to set him up with another girl from a similar background as him. And Viv, my closest friend, was always by my side, expressing regret, but with a hint of contempt in her voice. "Haha, you're so insightful. Ethan is brilliant, but it's a pity that girl won't benefit him at all. She only holds him back." They later broke up and Ethan was devastated. It was I who stayed by his side, encouraging him to get back on his feet. After graduation, I leveraged my parents' connections and all my savings to help him start his business. Our company grew from a tiny workshop to a reputable design studio in the city. I was the lead designer, the soul of the company, and the largest investor. Ethan was the CEO in charge of external relations and general management. As soon as Viv graduated, I brought her into the company as the head of administration. I treated her like a sister, paying her a salary far above the market rate. I hid nothing from her about the company's affairs. I naively believed the three of us would be an unbreakable iron triangle. Now looking back, those concerned words were just carefully calculated groundwork. For the past year, Viv would often whisper in my ear, "Haha, Ethan looks so tired lately. Those dark circles are obvious. Men work hard outside. Don't put any more pressure on him, okay?" And Ethan would often say at dinner, "Viv handles so much at the company by herself, it's so hard on her. You should take better care of her when you're free and make sure she doesn't overwork herself." One playing the role of the understanding confidant, the other acting as the compassionate leader. It turned out their concern had deftly bypassed me, the wife and friend, to knit them into a single entity. How ridiculous. I detached myself from the pain of betrayal, leaving only cold calculation. I gently turned to the rigid body next to me. "Ethan, are you asleep?" Ethan started, mumbling a response. I turned on the bedside lamp, the faint yellow light illuminating his guilt-ridden face. I sat up, leaning against the headboard, my voice frighteningly calm. "I've been thinking all night." Ethan swallowed hard, his body tense like a fully drawn bow. "I decided I can't ruin you like this, nor can I let Viv be gossiped about. Most importantly, I don't want my parents to know about this. Their hearts can't handle the shock." Every sentence I spoke was like a precise sedative injected into his panicked nervous system. He stared at me, his eyes shifting from fear to confusion, and finally, to unbelievable emotion. I continued to present my plan. "Let's get a paper divorce first, to save your reputation. We'll tell everyone that our relationship just faded and we're separating peacefully. We'll temporarily transfer the company's shares and property to my name. This way, you can be forced to take responsibility for Viv, and it will be easier to talk to your parents. After you and Viv stabilize, the baby is born, and things calm down, we can—" I didn't finish the sentence. but it was enough. Ethan, the quintessential Phoenix man, valued the career he had painstakingly built and the successful image he had cultivated above all else. My proposal was nothing less than a golden ladder that allowed him to save face while neatly resolving this huge problem. His eyes immediately welled up. He grabbed my hand, choking up. "Ava, how can you be so good to me? I'm the scumbag. I failed you. I only made a mistake that any man could make." He launched into a tearful confession, claiming I was the one he loved the most, and Viv was just a momentary lapse of judgment. I watched his touching performance, my heart cold and utterly disgusted. "Stop talking," I cut him off. "Words are useless now. The most important thing is to solve the problem." The next day I met with Viv. When I outlined the fake divorce plan, she was stunned for a few seconds, then cried tears of gratitude, grabbing my hand and swearing she'd repay me. She said she only wanted Ethan, absolutely none of my wealth. I smiled at her fake sincerity, even thoughtfully suggesting she move into my small downtown condo to rest during her pregnancy, away from any inconvenience. Ethan and Viv were completely fooled by my grand gesture of self-sacrifice. To quickly handle this ticking time bomb, Ethan almost immediately signed the asset division agreement that I had had a lawyer draft. The agreement clearly stated that the couple was divorcing amicably due to drifting apart, and the marital assets, 100% of the company's shares, 3 houses, and 2 cars, were voluntarily transferred entirely to the female party, Ava Miller. The male party, Ethan Miller, voluntarily relinquished all claims. On the signing day, Ethan looked at me with complicated emotions: guilt, reluctance, but most of all, a sense of relief, like a burden had been lifted. He thought this was just a temporary solution to appease me. He didn't know that from the moment he put pen to paper, he had lost everything. The procedure was quick. As soon as I held the divorce papers, I personally helped Viv move into my small condo. "Viv, this place is quiet and close to the hospital. You just focus on resting and don't worry about anything." I helped her neatly arrange her luggage, acting like a caring older sister. "Ava," she choked up, unable to speak. I patted her shoulder and smiled, then left. That night, I sat in my study, opening my laptop. The images streamed clearly from the surveillance cameras. Ethan and Viv were locked in an embrace in the condo. "Honey, we can finally be together openly." Viv's voice, full of triumph and joy, came through the speakers. "I'm sorry for what you had to go through." Ethan hugged her and kissed her forehead. "Once the storm passes, we'll remarry. The company, the houses, everything will be ours. You know I love you the most." Ava is cold as ice, rigid as a log. How could she ever understand me like you do? I silently watched the disgusting celebration of the 2 betrayers on the screen. I picked up my phone and sent a text to my lawyer. Step 1, complete. After Viv moved into the condo to rest, her greedy nature quickly revealed itself. She was no longer the modestly dressed, diligent admin manager, nor the weak, guilty mistress I once saw. She lived comfortably like a canary in a golden cage. Pregnancy, morning sickness became the perfect excuse to quit her job. She didn't go to the company, slept in until noon every day, and then started demanding things from Ethan. Today, it was the famous dessert from a restaurant across town. Tomorrow, it was a new model of a designer handbag. She swiped Ethan's supplementary credit card without hesitation. I took screenshots of every text message and consumption statement as they poured in, saving each one. The surveillance cameras were even more faithful, recording her every move. She had absolutely no pregnancy symptoms, seemed healthy every day, and spent her time cheerfully calling various friends, boasting that she had hit the jackpot and secured the potentially successful Ethan. You wouldn't believe it! That idiot Ava still thinks I'm her best friend. She even suggested the fake divorce so I could move into the condo. She's hilariously naive. Once the baby is born, I'll be Mrs. Miller. The whole company will be mine. Let's see how long she can keep acting high and mighty. Listening to her piercing, fake laughter through my headphones, I calmly clipped and saved every audio segment. All of it would be evidence in court. I took an extended leave of absence from the company, citing a poor emotional state after the divorce. At home, I began cleaning out Ethan's old belongings, supposedly to completely cut off the past. He didn't have much stuff, and most of it I had bought. I folded his suits, cufflinks, and ties into boxes, preparing to donate them to charity. In a corner of the home office, I found an old, dust-covered box. Inside were college textbooks and a long, obsolete laptop. On a whim, I found the charger and plugged it in. The machine still booted up. In the ancient system drive, I found a password-protected folder. My gut told me there was something valuable inside. I tried a few familiar passwords: Ethan's birthday, my birthday, our anniversary, but they were all wrong. Suddenly, I remembered a phrase Viv had accidentally let slip. Ethan is such a loyal man. His first college girlfriend was unbelievable. He was so good to her. Relying on memory, I entered the birthday of that ex-girlfriend. A click sound echoed, and the folder unlocked. My heart skipped a beat. I expected to find old love letters or intimate photos, but what was in the folder made me go completely cold. They weren't love letters, but a series of emails exchanged between him and an overseas medical facility, accompanied by the scanned medical records of his uncle. The emails spanned 5 years, from when we were dating to after we got married. The content revolved around a disease I had never heard of: Huntington's disease, HD. My hands trembled as I opened the medical record. It clearly stated that his uncle, Mr. Jim Miller, had died 8 years ago from complications of Huntington's disease. At the end of the record was a detailed description of the disease. Huntington's disease, HD, is an autosomal dominant neurodegenerative disorder. Clinical manifestations include uncontrolled, chorea-like movements, psychiatric disturbances, and progressive dementia. And the most devastating line, like a red-hot iron rod branded directly onto my retina: this is a dominant hereditary disease. Children of an affected person, regardless of gender, have a 50% chance of inheriting the disease. My head buzzed as if 1,000 bees were frantically beating their wings inside. Everything suddenly became clear. Ethan didn't not want a child. He didn't dare risk that 50% chance with me, a wife he formally married, a person he supposedly planned to spend his life with, someone with a good family background. He was afraid of having a potentially sick child and shattering the facade of our perfect life. He was afraid our future and my family would be dragged down by this terrible genetic disease. That's why he repeatedly postponed having children. And that's why he cheated with Viv, but made her take birth control, because in his eyes, Viv was just a disposable outlet. He never planned a future with her, much less let her give birth to a child carrying that curse. And what about me? The person he called the love of his life was kept in the dark for 8 long years. He used love and protection as a shield, weaving a gigantic cage of lies, trapping me inside like a bird with no escape. He deprived me of my right to know, the right of a woman and a wife to decide her life path. A feeling of betrayal more intense than when I discovered his affair surged up, swallowing me whole. This was not just infidelity, it was a denial and a deception of my entire life. I sank onto the cold floor, trembling like a leaf in a winter gale. The bone-deep chill spread from the soles of my feet straight to my heart. I thought I had married for love. It turned out I was just a tool for him to paint over his selfishness and cowardice. It took a long time to recover from the shock and blinding rage. I stood up, walked to my desk, and copied all the data from the hard drive onto an encrypted USB. This secret would be the final thread that snapped him. A new plan, more toxic, more vicious, more airtight, was forming in my mind. I didn't just want him to be financially ruined and stripped of his reputation. I wanted him to confess his cowardice and selfishness with his own mouth. I wanted him to pay the highest price for deceiving me about my entire life. Ethan's parents showed up at the company exactly 1 week later. The elderly couple, dusty from their journey, arrived with furious expressions and a determination to get justice for their son. They stormed straight towards the CEO's office. They couldn't get in. The company's receptionist didn't recognize them and stopped them at the door. An argument erupted. I had just stepped out of the design office when I heard the commotion. My assistant ran up, looking stressed. "Director Ava, Mr. Ethan's parents are here and causing a scene at the reception desk. Should I call security?" No need. I adjusted my blazer and calmly said, "Invite them into the reception room. I will personally meet with them." My assistant looked confused, but complied. As soon as they entered the room, Mrs. Miller rolled up her sleeves, ready to scold. "You malicious woman! What did my son ever do to you? Divorcing him wasn't enough. Now you've kicked him out of the company." I didn't wait for her to finish. I quickly spoke, my eyes immediately reddening. I didn't cry, but my gaze was full of injustice, forbearance, and sorrow. Mom and Dad, that one phrase stopped the carefully prepared insults in their throats. "I'm sorry," I lowered my head, my voice hoarse. "It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of Ethan, and the excessive pressure made him make a mistake." My self-criticism stunned them both. Next, I accepted a folder from my assistant and placed it on the coffee table in front of them. "Mom and Dad, I know it's my fault for not giving the Miller family a grandchild. Now that Viv is pregnant with Ethan's child, I can rest a little easier. These are things I prepared, intending to find a time to send them to you." Mr. Miller opened the folder suspiciously. Inside were not divorce papers, but a thick notebook. The first page was a meticulously pasted invoice for a complete set of home appliances I bought for their rural home 5 years ago. The second page was a list of money I had gifted their younger son and daughter on holidays over the years, with printed bank statements for every transaction. The third page detailed the money I had spent and the connections I had leveraged to find a job for their wayward younger son after his graduation. Every item was crystal clear. I didn't say a single word about getting the money back, but I knew the black and white print carried more weight than any verbal defense. Mrs. Miller's face shifted from flushed anger to embarrassment. I continued to speak with a tone of forbearance and generosity. "Mom and Dad, I know I had many shortcomings over the years, and I won't be able to stay by your side to care for you anymore. It's good that Ethan and Viv ended up together. As long as he's happy, I'll be fine." I sighed softly, then seemingly unintentionally added a loaded sentence. "I've always been a little worried about Ethan's health, though. We tried for years and nothing happened. I thought it was my fault, and I ran around to different hospitals for checkups, but the results all said I was perfectly normal. Now it's good. Viv got pregnant right away, which proves Ethan's health is fine. I can finally be at ease." These seemingly gentle words were like needles piercing the hearts of the two older people. They were traditional, and the matter of having an heir was paramount. I didn't stop, continuing to casually add, "The Viv is young and carefree, though. She's pregnant, but still wears makeup, runs around in high heels every day, and doesn't watch her diet. She eats cold things, spicy things. Young people don't understand these things. I'm truly worried about the little one inside her." Mr. Miller's eyebrows began to furrow. Sensing the moment was right, I dropped the final bomb. "Oh right, Mom and Dad. The company just landed a massive project, introduced by an old friend of my father's. The profit margin is very high, but the partner has strict requirements. The project head needs excellent health, mental stamina, and must be able to travel for several days straight." I sighed, a look of deep regret on my face. I originally planned to give it to Ethan, since he's the CEO and it's a chance for him to prove himself. But now he has to take care of pregnant Viv, and their home life is a mess. I doubt he can handle it. I'm a woman. I can't carry this burden alone. I guess I'll have to consider breaking the project into smaller pieces and outsourcing it. "What?" Mrs. Miller immediately shot up, her voice ringing out. Her son's career was her lifeblood. Just then, the reception room door was pushed open. Ethan and Viv, having received the news, rushed in. They froze when they saw me chatting happily with his parents. Both their faces immediately turned white. "Mom and Dad, why are you here?" Ethan's voice was trembling. Mrs. Miller ignored him and didn't even glance at Viv, who was standing beside him with an awkward, flattering smile. She pulled her son's arm, lowering her voice just enough for the few of us to hear, urgently questioning him. "Tell me the truth. Does your body have a problem? Why couldn't you have a child before? And what about that big project? Are you really going to give up such a good opportunity just because of a woman?" I stood up, wearing an appropriate smile, and gently said my goodbyes. "Mom and Dad, I have another meeting. I won't interrupt your family reunion." Walking past the white faces of Ethan and Viv, I even smiled at her. "Viv, Remember to take care of yourself, and please take good care of Mr. and Mrs. Miller too." I didn't look back, but I could clearly imagine the uncontrollable chaos behind me. I knew I had set Ethan's foundation on fire, and the flames were enough to consume the beautiful future they dreamed of. The seeds of doubt I sowed in the Miller family took root very quickly. Under the pretense of caring for their pregnant daughter-in-law, Mrs. Miller officially moved into the small condo. The mother-in-law-daughter-in-law war formally began. The camera in the condo became my private theater to watch the drama unfold every day. Mrs. Miller was openly displeased with Viv's lifestyle. "You're about to be a mother, and you're still sleeping until noon." When I was pregnant with Ethan, I had to work the fields with a huge belly. "How much did this dress cost? $3,000? $3,000 for a piece of cloth? Are you trying to ruin us? Stop ordering takeout every day. That stuff is dirty and toxic, not good for my grandson." Viv was no pushover. Spoiled since childhood, she couldn't tolerate this old-fashioned mother-in-law. "Mom, what era are we living in? Women should take care of themselves. Ethan bought this for me. If you're worried about money, tell him not to buy it anymore. And I can't eat your cooking. It's too greasy." The two fought constantly over food, daily life, and spending habits. Ethan was stuck in the middle, his head spinning. On one side was his volatile mother. On the other was the woman carrying his child. Exhausted, he called me multiple times for help. "Ava, my mom only listens to you. Can you talk to her? Tell her not to make things so difficult for Viv?" I politely but coldly refused. "Ethan, we're divorced. Now I'm just a company shareholder and an ex-daughter-in-law in your parents' eyes. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to interfere in your family matters. It would only make things harder for Viv and make your mother resent her more." My refusal was reasonable, and he couldn't argue. While his home was burning, I didn't let up at the company. As the largest and currently the only shareholder, I convened the entire board of directors. I formally announced that I would personally lead a specialized task force to oversee the major ongoing project. Everyone saw clearly that I was sidelining Ethan. He stormed into my office, yelling furiously. "Ava, what is the meaning of this? I'm still the CEO of this company." I leaned back in the CEO's chair, calmly looking at his furious face. "Director Miller, please mind your language. First, we are divorced, so call me Director Ava. Second, yes, you are the CEO, but I am the legal entity and hold 100% of the company's shares." I gently pushed the copy of the stock transfer agreement with his signature towards him. "All major company decisions are made by me. Do you have any problem with that?" He stared at the agreement, his face shifting between red and white, unable to speak. He choked out a single sentence after a long silence. "You're taking revenge on me." "Revenge?" I laughed. "Ethan, I am simply exercising the legal rights of a company owner. If you feel your family life is too chaotic lately and you lack the energy, you can submit a long-term leave request, and I will approve it. The company will run just fine without you." He was so blocked he couldn't say anything, only slamming the door shut in anger as he left, stripped of his career, glory, and economic control. Ethan became even more powerless against his mother and Viv. The surveillance camera recorded their arguments becoming more frequent and uglier. "Ethan, are you even a man anymore? Your mother is about to walk all over me and you won't say a word," Viv screamed. "You need to be more understanding of me. Right now, both the company and the house are a mess, and isn't it all because of you?" Ethan finally exploded. "Because of me? Wake up! It's because you couldn't keep it in your pants. And now what? You got me pregnant and are about to lose your job. Now you're blaming me? Viv, say that one more time." The camera recorded the two lunging at each other, struggling, sending pillows and sheets flying. Viv's friend gave her a malicious idea. "Viv, you can't stay passive. Ethan's mom won't accept you, and Ethan himself is embarrassed by his career slump. You have to make a big deal out of this. Turn the fait accompli into an irreversible situation." "How?" "Throw a huge baby gender reveal party, invite all your friends, colleagues, and relatives, and announce that the baby you're carrying is a Miller grandchild. By then, the cake will be baked. For the sake of face, Ethan will be forced to marry you properly, and his mom won't have a leg to stand on." Viv thought this was a brilliant plan. She began secretly preparing for a lavish forced marriage party, hiding it from both Ethan and her future mother-in-law. She wanted to give me, the Miller family, and everyone who had ever looked down on her, a massive surprise. And I, through the Encanto camera, had captured her entire plan, down to the minute details. The smile on my lips grew colder. This was the moment I had been waiting for. That foolish woman was personally building the most spectacular execution stage for herself. And I would be the one to press the button. Viv chose to hold the party in the most expensive 5-star hotel ballroom in the city. She spared no expense, transforming the hall into a sea of pink and blue balloons, ribbons, fresh flowers, both dreamy and gaudy. She sent invitations far and wide. College friends, company colleagues, Miller relatives in the city. No one was missed. That evening, Viv wore a custom-designed maternity dress that hugged her figure, her diamond necklace glittering under the lights. She walked arm in arm with Ethan, whose face was rigid, his smile forced, acting as if she were the noble hostess, circling the room to greet guests and receive congratulations, some genuine, some fake, some half-hearted. Ethan's parents were also forced to sit at the main table, their faces as sour as if they had swallowed a fly. I arrived when the party was reaching its climax. I didn't wear a social gown. I chose a neatly tailored deep red blazer and pantsuit, wore 4-inch black heels, and painted my lips fire engine red. When I appeared, the entire ballroom fell silent for a few seconds, all eyes focused on me. Some looked pitying, some curious, and others were gleefully waiting for the drama. Viv saw me, and the smile on her face froze for a moment, but she quickly forced herself to walk over. She intentionally rested her hand on her slightly protruding belly, stroking it meaningfully. "You came too? I was worried you'd hold a grudge and not come to congratulate me and Ethan." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone nearby to hear every word. I laughed, my smile even more radiant than hers. Why wouldn't I? You are my best friend, and he is my most loved ex-husband. You two have a baby. Of course, I have to come and give you my most sincere blessings. I deliberately emphasized the 3 phrases: best friend, most loved, and ex-husband. Viv's face turned white, then whiter. The climax of the party was the cake cutting and the baby's gender reveal. A large, frosted cake was wheeled onto the stage. The Meg, speaking with great emotion, invited the parents to be onto the stage. Then, the Megs looked towards me. Today, we have a very special guest. She is Mr. Miller's ex-wife and Ms. Viv's best friend. Please give a big round of applause for Ms. Ava Miller and invite her onto the stage to give her blessings to the couple. All eyes in the hall once again turned to me. This was clearly Viv's setup. She wanted to use my generosity and my blessing on this solemn occasion to display her victory and humiliate me. I calmly stepped onto the stage and took the microphone from the MC. Looking down, I saw Viv's gloating face, Ethan's face flushed with shame, and the faces of his parents, which were as black as charcoal. I smiled. I feel very honored to be standing here today. As Viv's best friend, seeing her about to have a child of her own, I am genuinely happy. That's why I have also prepared a very special gift. I paused, my eyes sweeping over the entire ballroom. A gift of life and of honesty. I subtly signaled my assistant below the stage. The giant LED screen in the center of the ballroom suddenly lit up. But what appeared on the screen was not a congratulatory video or sweet memories of the couple, but a video excerpt from the surveillance camera. In the image, Vivian was applying a face mask in the living room of the condo I gave her, casually talking on the phone with a friend. Her voice, amplified by the hotel's high-end sound system, echoed throughout the ballroom, hitting everyone like a physical slap. You wouldn't believe it, that idiot Ava still thinks I'm her best friend. It's hilariously pathetic. Ethan is just a Phoenix man who's obsessed with her family's money. The first thing I'll do once I give birth and solidify my position as Mrs. Miller is kick that bitch out of the company. Why would I want to be her best friend? I hate her condescending attitude. Why does she have everything? I absolutely have to take everything from her. The entire hall plunged into a deathly silence. Immediately after, an uproar erupted like a tsunami. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the screen, then back at the stage, where Viv and Ethan were frozen, their faces as pale as raw liver. Ethan's mother was shaking with rage, pointing at Viv, her lips trembling, unable to speak a word. "Turn it off! Turn that thing off immediately!" Viv finally reacted, screaming hysterically, lunging to pull the power cord. But it was too late. The forced marriage drama she had painstakingly orchestrated had, from the moment I pressed play, turned into her own public execution. Her hypocrisy, malice, and greed were ruthlessly stripped bare in front of everyone. "It's a lie. It's fabricated. Ava, you malicious woman, you're just jealous of me." Viv, her hair disheveled, pointed at me, sobbing and screaming, struggling in desperation for one last shred of pity. The entire hall began to buzz with whispers, their eyes looking at her with disgust and schadenfreude. I looked at her with a cold expression, as if watching a cheap clown flailing clumsily. "Fabricated?" I asked, my voice even. "Then is this recording also fabricated?" I raised my phone and pressed play. The second gift officially began. It was a recording I had hired a private investigator to make. He posed as a psychologist, calling Ethan to conduct a telephone therapy session. Ethan's voice, clear and desperate through the sound system, resonated throughout the room. "The pressure is too great. I absolutely dare not have children with Ava. My family has a history of genetic disease, Huntington's disease. My uncle died from it. I'm terrified that if the child isn't healthy, how can I face Ava? How can I face her family? I'm a fraud. I lied to her." The thing with Viv was just a lapse in judgment. I never intended a future with her, which is why I made her take the pills. I never expected her to still get pregnant. The recording was long, but I only selected the most critical parts to broadcast. That was enough. If the previous video only tore off Viv's mask, this recording was the fatal blow that completely shattered Ethan's image. The ballroom fell into another stunned silence. All eyes, filled with disgust, contempt, and disbelief, converged on Ethan on the stage. He was no longer the self-made entrepreneur, no longer the pitiable man who made a mistake. He was a coward, selfish, a blatant liar, a terrible man who, for the sake of his own pride and fake stability, deceived his wife's love, deprived her of her right to motherhood, and treated another woman as a disposable tool for pleasure. A piercing scream erupted from the main table. Ethan's mother, after hearing the recording, rolled her eyes and slumped onto the chair, fainting on the spot. His father also slumped down, his face ash-gray, seeming to age 10 years in minutes. The scene spiraled completely out of control. "Ava, you ruined me! You ruined me!" Ethan finally went berserk, completely crumbling in ultimate shame and defeat. His eyes were bloodshot like a cornered beast. He roared and lunged straight toward me. Viv, standing nearby, instinctively tried to stop him, but Ethan, in his frenzy, violently shoved her away. "Get lost, you cheap woman!" Viv, wearing high heels and already unsteady, was pushed hard, falling backward. Her protruding pregnant belly slammed hard into the sharp metal edge of the cake cart directly behind her. "Ah!" A throat-tripping scream, even more tragic than before, echoed throughout the hall. Everyone watched in horror as bright red blood quickly spread from the hem of Viv's expensive white gown, staining the floor a sickening red. I stood amidst the chaotic scene, amidst the screams and panic of the crowd, my eyes still cold as I watched everything. I pulled out my phone and calmly dialed 911. My voice was even, as if announcing the weather. "Hello? Emergency? I am at the Crow Plaza Hotel ballroom. Someone needs urgent medical attention. Yes, a pregnant woman is bleeding heavily." Hanging up the phone, I looked at Viv, who was writhing in a pool of blood, groaning in pain. I looked at Ethan, who was clutching his head and howling wildly, and at the panicked, chaotic guests. I knew this wasn't over. This was just the overture to a symphony of destruction. The real sentence was just beginning. The hospital emergency room hallway was cold under the pale white light. Ethan and his parents, who had recently regained consciousness, sat slumped like three defeated chickens outside the operating room. The light above the door flickered off. The doctor stepped out, removing his mask, his face tired and regretful. "I'm sorry. We did everything we could. The patient lost too much blood. We couldn't save the baby." Mrs. Miller collapsed onto the floor, beating her chest and wailing inconsolably as if the sky had fallen. My grandson? My unborn grandchild. A terrible karma. Ethan leaned against the wall, pale-faced, his eyes empty. Just then, a nurse carrying a results chart hurried out of the emergency room, looking confused. "Excuse me, who is the patient Vivian Chase's family?" Ethan instinctively looked up. The nurse glanced at him, then back at the chart in her hand, frowning. "Here's the thing. The patient's blood type is AB, but the emergency documents listed her husband, Mr. Ethan Miller, as blood type O." The nurse didn't finish the sentence, but her eyes said it all. The hospital hallway immediately fell silent, so quiet you could hear Mrs. Miller gasp sharply. Ethan froze. Though not a medical professional, he knew basic biology. A mother with AB blood and a father with O blood absolutely, under no circumstances, could have a child with AB blood. In that instant, feelings of humiliation, anger, and grotesque irony erupted like a volcano, swallowing his last shred of reason. He frantically shoved open the door to the hospital room and stormed in. "Vivian, tell me the truth. Whose child was that?" Vivian's frightened sobs and Ethan's angry shouts echoed from the room. It was at that moment that I appeared at the end of the hallway with my lawyer. I walked on my high heels, my steps slow but steady, heading straight toward Ethan. He saw me as if he'd seen a ghost, his eyes streaked with blood and despair. I didn't bother to look at him, simply presenting 2 sheets of paper right in front of him. One was a termination of employment notice stamped with the company's seal, and the other was the signed asset division agreement from the divorce. My voice wasn't loud, but every word hit him like a cold iron hammer. "Mr. Ethan Miller, according to the divorce settlement you signed, the entire shareholding of Fenge Design Co., Limited, along with all houses and vehicles registered under both spouses, is now my lawful property. Currently, as the legal representative of the company, I formally announce that due to your personal actions having severely damaged the company's reputation, the company has decided to terminate your contract effective today, based on labor law and internal regulations." I paused, looking at his now bloodless white face, and continued, "The car you're currently using is a company vehicle issued for the CEO position. The luxury condo where you are residing is my separate premarital property. As per regulations, you have 3 days to vacate the premises and hand over all company assets. In other words, you are left with nothing." Ethan looked at me as if he couldn't believe his ears, his entire body trembling. His lips moved, attempting to speak, but no sound came out. I leaned in close to his ear, my voice low enough only for the two of us. "Ethan, from the day I found the birth control pills you hid in the car, you were already out of the game." In those eyes that once held such captivating allure for me, I saw complete and utter collapse, an irreparable destruction. He had lost everything. Vivian's fate was even more pathetic than I had imagined. The baby was lost. Her dream of marrying into wealth was shattered, and she had become the city's biggest joke. After the Millers learned the baby wasn't Ethan's, they showed her no more sympathy, immediately upon her discharge from the hospital. Mrs. Miller shoved her out of the condo, not even letting her take a change of clothes. I later learned the baby's real father was a spoiled rich kid she had met at a bar. It was a one-night fling, and he had long since disappeared without a trace. Penniless, disgraced, and homeless, Vivian wandered the streets like a stray dog for 2 days. Naturally, she poured all her resentment onto me. If it weren't for me, she would have been the glamorous Mrs. Miller, respected and adored. She stormed to my company building like a madwoman, crying and pounding on the doors, demanding to see me and threatening to take her own life. "Ava Miller, you malicious woman, come out here! You ruined everything for me. I'll kill you!" I stood in my top-floor office, behind the large, floor-to-ceiling window, coldly looking down at the woman frantically struggling below. She looked tiny, ridiculous, like a stranger completely unrelated to me. Security restrained her, and the situation became extremely ugly. I called my assistant. "Go handle it. Don't let it affect the company's image." A few minutes later, my assistant, carrying a brown paper bag, walked up to Viv. She handed the bag to her right in front of the surrounding crowd. "Ms. Chase, Director Ava asked me to deliver a message." The assistant's voice was professional and cold. Director Ava said, "This is a farewell gift for your 10 years of friendship, and the last bit of decency she will extend to her former best friend. The amount is small enough for you to buy a ticket home and find somewhere else to start over." Viv numbly took the paper bag, opened it, and saw a thick stack of cash inside. She stared at the money, then suddenly burst into laughter, crying and laughing simultaneously, tears and snot streaming down her face. "A farewell gift, huh? 10 years of friendship." She continued to cry and laugh hysterically, finally clutching the bag of money, staggering into the crowd, and disappearing. I never saw her in the city again. I heard she actually used the money to return to the poor small town of her hometown. I returned to my desk, opened my phone, and found Vivian's contact. I looked at the familiar profile picture, a photo of us traveling together. Without hesitation, I pressed delete. At the same time, I erased the shameful past of betrayal and humiliation she had left in my life. From now on, she and I were worlds apart, unconnected. No company, no house, no money. Ethan's life fell straight from the peak to the abyss overnight. Tagged with adultery, marriage fraud, and a family history of genetic disease, he had no standing in the industry. No respectable company would hire him. He eventually took a sales job at a small interior renovation company, constantly bending over backward and enduring every contemptuous glance. Only when he truly lost everything did he begin to miss the things he once had but never appreciated. He started calling and texting me incessantly. At first it was cursing, then pleading, and eventually endless messages of repentance. That night, I was working late at the company. Somehow, he found out and tracked me down to the basement garage. He was waiting by my parking spot. After only a few months, he looked 10 years older. His once immaculate suit was replaced by cheap, wrinkled clothing. His beard was scruffy, his face gaunt, his eyes tired and gloomy. Seeing me, he rushed over, forcing a smile that was sadder than tears. "Ava, Ava!" I stopped, looking at him coldly. "What is it?" "Ava, I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong." He spoke urgently, his voice choked with pleading. "Can you forgive me? I swear, I have only ever truly loved you in my heart. Viv was just a moment of folly, a mistake." Then he brought up the damn genetic disease again. "I hid it from you because I genuinely wanted what was best for you. It was to protect you. I didn't want you to endure that pain with me." "He protected me?" I couldn't help but laugh. The sound echoed in the empty garage, both piercing and cold. I cut short his tearful monologue. "Ethan, your so-called protection was using a lie to trap me like an idiot, all while comfortably enjoying everything my family and I provided for you. Your so-called protection was depriving me of my right to know the truth, my right to choose my own life, and even my right to be a mother. Stop deceiving yourself." Every word I spoke wasn't loud, but it cut like a sharp knife, tearing through his entire false facade. "You don't love me, Ethan. You only love yourself. You love the version of yourself that escaped poverty, satisfied your cheap pride, and rode a fast track to fame. Your betrayal didn't start the moment you got into bed with Viv. It started 8 years ago. The day you decided to hide that secret from me, you already betrayed me." He was speechless, his face white. I looked at him. There was no love left in my eyes, and even the hatred had run dry. Only contempt remained. "I never intended to harm you. I was merely taking back what was rightfully mine." With that, I opened my car door, preparing to leave. Ava. He suddenly dropped to his knees, clutching my leg. A man over 30 was sobbing hysterically like a child. "Please, give me one more chance. Let's start over. I promise, from now on, I will." I frowned in disgust, yanking my foot free. "Ethan, you disgust me." I pushed him away, got into the car, and locked the door. I didn't glance at him again. I stomped on the gas, leaving the man sobbing pitifully behind me. In the rearview mirror, his silhouette grew smaller and smaller, finally becoming just a faint black dot. Other than cold legal documents, nothing bound us anymore.